Okay. All right, it is 6 p.m. Give me 1 second here. Test. Okay. All right, it is 6 p.m. And we'll call this meeting to order. Since we are also virtual, we'll do a roll call vote. So Adam Sheely here. Stephanie Butenhoff.
Here.
Sue Kradowitz.
Here.
Michael Sod.
Here.
Corey Bees.
Here.
Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Call this meeting to order.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Corey Bees. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, working. All right. Okay. Number 4, approval of agenda. I am seeking a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
All right. Any discussion? All right. Let's do a roll call vote. Adam, aye. Stephanie, aye. Oops, sorry. Not bad.
Aye.
A little excited. I think I did that the last time too. Sue Kradowitz.
Yes.
Michael Sod.
Aye.
Corey Bees.
Aye.
All right. Motion carried 5-0. All right. So we have number 5, personnel hires. So I'll let Jack speak about that.
Yeah, simple. This was just one personnel hire that became formal after our last regular board meeting. So I added it to the agenda today. Just seeking for approval to approve Ashley Nelson at a .85 special education teacher contract. The contract was linked to the BOE website if you guys want to review it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
So Corey made a motion to approve the contract hire, seconded by Mike. So we'll do roll call vote. Adam, aye. Stephanie,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Corey.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried 5-0. So number 6, we're moving on to public comments. So Kevin, could you grab the clipboard for me, please?
And for those of you that came in the last few minutes, if you didn't get a chance to sign up and you'd like to speak publicly, this would be the last call to put your name on the list to speak publicly if you so choose. We'll follow the list in order of those that signed up.
Thank you, Jack.
Hey, Tony, if you can hear this, can you please have Mel bring 6 or 8 more chairs down to the library, please?
All right, so number 6, public comments. Members of the board may ask questions for clarification and briefly discuss the matter as permitted in accordance with state statute, but may not take any action on an item unless it is on the agenda. All visitors are asked to identify themselves before speaking. Obviously, we had you sign up, so when we call your name, I'll count that as identifying you. In accordance with our board policy, each individual will be allocated 3 minutes. Per district policy 0167.3, all comments are to be directed to the board and not to staff or other participants. No person may address or question board members individually. The chair of this meeting does have the right to have participants be interrupted, warned, have their statement terminated, or be removed from the meeting if that participant does not observe reasonable decorum, or if their statement is abusive, obscene, personally directed, or irrelevant. The board understands this is a sensitive topic, and unfortunately, it's a divisive one. It's imperative that everyone in this room be respectful of each other's opinions. I also want to remind everyone that you may not interrupt another community member or board member while they are speaking. We will now start our public comments in the order that community members signed up on the sheet provided. So I did have earlier, if you did not get the opportunity to sign up to speak, you'll have the opportunity once we get through everybody on the list. So, but I think everybody had the chance to sign up. So just a reminder, you have 3 minutes, and Stephanie will be keeping time, and you're going to give them a 10-second warning. Give me a 10-second warning, okay? I was hoping for a bell or something, you know, you just, so anyways.
Ding, ding.
And I apologize in advance if I mispronounce your name, so. All right. What's that? Yeah. All right, please state your name before you talk. So first on our list is Katie Weiss. And then make sure you're unmuted.
All right, got it. I'm Katie Weiss. I strongly feel the mask policy should be optional. Children need to see the facial cues from their teachers. Children need to be breathing in fresh air and need to feel safe to learn in an environment without something on their faces. Body language and facial expression is part of the learning process. Children should be able to smile at their friends, and we should not take that right away from them. They should be able to play and not social distance 6 feet apart. It is essential that, as parents, that we make the best choices for our children. It is time to approach things as we did pre-pandemic, as COVID is not going away. You, as the school board, have the power to change the school policy and our children and the community. The emotional and educational needs are more important to the children's health than the COVID risk to our children. The only way to guide the school year is to offer choice. It should be up to the family as a personal choice. Our neighboring school districts are planning to return to school mask optional 5 days a week. These neighboring school districts are in our same county. Our children deserve to learn unmasked and or have the option to mask, but not make it mandatory.
Thank you. All right, number 2, Brian Bean.
All right, let's be a stretch for time here. Thanks, everybody, for all your time. It's nice to see your unmasked faces here. I want to remind each of you here and listening tonight that Wisconsin Supreme Court overturned an unconstitutional mask mandate by Governor Evers back in March. The Kenosha Health Director, Jennifer Freyfight, who is the local media darling and crutch for those that can't lead, has no jurisdiction over Kenosha County despite her unscientific bias fear-mongering. Neither of these people elected new school board members, as it was we the people of Bristol, Wisconsin, that did that. This brings me to the CDC, another unelected bureaucracy who many folks have given more power over their life than to Almighty God himself. The CDC is a criminal enterprise who is in the vaccine business. It sounds crazy, but it's true. Globalist eugenist villains like Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, rehearsed pandemic and exercise called Event 201. Then they actually created the crisis through the bat-suit Chinese wet market story, when it in fact was made in Wuhan lab funded by Obama and Fauci. The media sells the crisis, and they keep you locked inside. You keep viewing their propaganda. They make you panic. They make you obey. They make you wear a mask, which is nothing more than an outward sign of their power and control over you. And then you go get a vaccine. Guess what? That's not working either. So now they come up with variants, Delta, Lambda, and who knows what's next. But I can assure you it's coming. So you better get that booster, and on. More propaganda, more money, and more control over us, while they're laughing and mocking all the way to the bank. It's so easy to see when you are not ensnared by the propaganda. While these corrupt people of our time fill their wallets and their sycophants fill their empty lives with fear, hero status, and self-importance to the point they want control over my child, our children's health, mental health has decreased. They hate school, they are depressed at school, they are socially awkward, their grades have declined, their suicide rates have increased, their teachers are stressed and distracted to the point that they can't perform the job effectively due to any rays over their face. We're now having to worry about the jab, which has already become the next big hoax, yet all part of the original plan. Where are the recommendations from the health director on the mental health pandemic of our youth, as long as she cares so much? The cure is far worse than the disease. How dumb are we as a society? The whole debacle reminds me of the frog that remained in the pot while it's heated to boil until it eventually dies. Frog never jumps out. However, you put the frog into a boiling hot water, it will jump out. Are we not collectively smarter or more aware of our surrounding frogs? This will not go away as long as people continue to cling to media and false prophets of our time. There's big money to be made from fear and lack of free thought. People need to wake up from their slumber and quit being used as pawns. Pawns are the first one given up in a chess match, and as we clearly see now that medical professionals have to get jabbed or lose their jobs. And what for? A virus so deadly that it has 99.7% survival rate. Children having 99.9% survival rate, and only kids that have severe health issues have died wouldn't have been able in the school anyway. There is school worldwide. Paris, grade school, neighbor to the north, had one COVID case from Christmas until the end of school on June 4th, and the following 2 months were...
All right, time. Got to stop you there. All right, Bob Cookson.
All right. Okay, so.
You live 5 houses down from me. If I get it wrong, I'm in trouble.
This one right. Well, my name is Bob Cookson. Thank you guys very much for all you do for Bristol, our children, my grandkids. It's a commitment that I'm grateful that you're willing to make to sit on this board. And I know it's not an easy job, but thank you very much. You probably don't hear that an awful lot, but I do sincerely mean it. And I wouldn't want to be in your shoes, to be perfectly honest with you. Having to make these decisions are not easy under any circumstances, under any conditions. It's very difficult. And this is what I'm going to encourage you with. I can spit out all kinds of facts and figures, and you can agree or disagree, and you can counter with anything you want. God knows there's enough information out there to choke a horse. What do you believe? Well, you know what I believe? What I see. And here's what I see. Not a lot. I just don't see a lot. I don't see a lot going on. I don't see kids passing out in the streets. I don't see children dropping dead at schools. I don't see teachers, being asphyxiated. I see nothing. Okay. Are people getting sick and dying? Absolutely. You know what? 800,000 people are going to die of cancer next year. 700,000 from heart disease. We could run all kinds of tallies if we need them, but the reality of it is this is serious. We're doing our best. Now, the question for you guys is putting masks over our kids' face the best. I would want to have to answer that question for my children. You know who I would want to answer that for my children? Is me. Okay? I can decide. I know what's best for my kids. You don't have to make that decision. So please, I'm begging you, let these people decide for and by themselves what's best for their kids. Okay? That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Bob. All right, Trent Smith.
As said, I'm Trent Smith. I just want to put 2 facts out there for you because I like these. Just 4 times the amount of people die from heart attacks every day, as you just said, as people are dying from the Delta variant right now. They put this big fear out there that this Delta thing is going to kill everybody. There's way bigger things, and no one's fighting over French fries and things being in the lunchroom. Heart attacks, heart disease is a huge thing. No one cares. Even bigger, suicide. Kids are dying by the hundreds right now because of all these propaganda things that got put into this place. It's wrong. It's unethical. All I'm here to do today, I could tell you, just like he did, I could tell you a million facts. You guys have your facts. Everyone has their own. What I'm asking is the Board of Education to worry about education for the 8 hours a day that you have our kids, that we trust you guys to do what's right on their behalf for education. And then everything else, leave to us parents. It's our choice. It's our decision if the kid wants to wear a mask. And as far as the parents that want masks, no one's telling them they can't have their kids to wear a mask. But I know if I told them you're not allowed to have your kid wear a mask and they want them, like they're trying to do to us, mandating it, that they would be up here just like the rest of us are. Very, very unhappy. So take into consideration, we're the parents, you guys aren't. We respect you guys as a Board of Education, and thank you all for doing what you do. But let the parents be parents, and you guys do your job as education people and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Trent. All right.
I'll say it. It's Dulcie Shaw.
That's exactly how I was going to say that.
Dulcie Shaw, my grandkids go here, and I'm just concerned as all these other grandparents and parents. And all I can tell you is what you choose for these kids, it's not your choice, it's all of ours, and even my grandchildren. And if I start crying, it's because I'm really upset that my grandson got put on the wall because he pulled the stupid mask down for 5 minutes. That's ridiculous. This is a free country. We should be able to decide, not any of you. But if you decide the wrong way, then you all should be out of here. Because these are our kids and my grandkids. And you should protect the children, not cause all the harm like the suicides, the hypersphyxia, all the things that can go on with their face, the stop not to learn, the suicides. There's so much data. There's real data, not the fake data from the CDC and Fauci, or Falsey, I should call him. Everybody else, it is false. You can read other doctors that they have censored, like they've tried to censor the parents. Dig. Don't listen to what your health department's doing, because they're only looking after big money, and that's what it's about, greed. You want to look at a verse where it says in the Bible, Revelations 18:23, it talks about where the pharmakia is going to fool the nations, and that's what it's about. It's the pharmakia, the pharmacy, getting us to get injected with this crap. It's going to either change the completely DNA of our bodies, our God-given DNA that He gave us, not this crap that they're trying to inject you with or do to our children. So I hope you listen to these parents and say no mask and stand up for what the truth is instead of following the sheep like the rest of the country is. We need to stand.
Okay, thank you. All right, Brian Watson.
Keep it simple. My name is Brian Watson. I have 3 children to go here. They've been going here since they could go to school. My son in particular, he suffered from migraines. He overcame them 2 years ago. But since this mask mandate came into effect last year at this school, he suffered from them worse than he ever has, especially in the summertime. He had to wear his mask outside. During recess, he had to wear his mask while he was eating and only take it off to put food in his mouth. I had to take him to the hospital during the last week of school because he wouldn't stop throwing up. And when it comes down to this, it needs to be my choice for my children. Education, I have always taught them to be respectful to their teachers, to respect the Bristol Bees, to be good citizens. But when it comes to my kids' health, it needs to be my decision and all these other parents' decision. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. I can't read this last name. It's looks like Brian Ishii. Okay.
Hello, my name is Brian Ishii. As you can see, I'm a 10-year Navy veteran. Okay, I'm not here for that. I'm gonna get upset. I served my country. I took an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States. In the Constitution is the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment says no law shall be passed that prohibits life, liberty, and property. Okay? We stood up here and we said the Pledge of Allegiance. Really? Really? Okay? I'm here to tell you that there is no life wearing a mask. There's no life. All right? You're taking that away from my child. I served my country. You're not taking that from my child. Brothers and sisters in the armed forces died protecting that Constitution. And here you are trying to take those rights of what we fought for away from us. I was going to sit here and I go, oh, here, CDC information. This is, doesn't make sense. Do the numbers. Look at this. Here's some, CDC influenza tests on masks dated May 5th. Couldn't find any evidence that it prevented influenza. Garbage. It's garbage. Go over the numbers. Let's follow the science. Give me good science, we'll follow it. If there's no good science, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're hurting our children. That's our future. Our children are our future. And let's put them behind a mask. Let's see what's going to happen generations from now. Are we teaching fear? Children live in fear? That go coddle, not stand up? I got nothing else to say. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Next is Jessica Hanchy Smith.
Hello, Jessica Hanchy Smith. Again, thank you guys for all being here. I know it's hard. I know I've blown up all your emails. Michael, you haven't had that. I don't think Mr. Lucia yet either. But again, it is appreciated. And I'm going to keep it simple. Yeah, I can give you a bunch of handouts. You've all seen it. You've all heard it. We're all tired of it. But I have my ex-husband here and my husband. We're all on the same page. And we want what is best for our child. And again, as everybody is stating, we can make it an option. That would be epically awesome. Again, thank you. We appreciate you guys. Good night.
Okay, thank you. The last name is Schmid. Jody, okay.
Hi, Jody Schmid, alumni of Bristol here. Many moons ago. My one and only child is a kindergartner this year. This is not the way I want her to start the school year, and meeting new friends and meeting her teachers. No, thank you. It's important that she learn social interactions, and that includes the social facial expressions and how to read a person. She needs to have the social interaction and respect personal space. That's also part of my job as a mom, telling her and informing her and educating her on how to be healthy, how to keep clean, stay out of people's business, don't get too close into other people's space, your space, my space. It's simple as the ABCs. She's here to learn not to be worrying about wearing a mask. Toddlers, they hate it. They don't like it. I want her to learn her reading, writing, and arithmetic. I don't want her to be getting constantly yelled at for pulling it down or whatever the case may be. She's currently, this is my experience from last year. She's going to preschool. She's been going to preschool since she was 2 years old. We haven't been really forced to have to wear a mask. You know what? Everybody's alive. Nobody got sick. Kids are germy creatures. They're gonna get sick, mask or no mask. My kid had multiple colds already this year. Got tested once for COVID. I felt it was okay. It wasn't adding to the numbers. It wasn't in the height of the season, but hey, we did it. We were safe. And it was just a cold. There are colds going around right now. She currently has one. It is a virus, and it's not going to go anywhere. We can't even control the flu virus as it is right now. So how do we expect a very fast-paced vaccination, so-called vaccination, to cure this COVID-ness? And just so you know, if you didn't catch wind, as of July 21st, the FDA dropped using the emergency use of the jab as of December 31st because they can't tell the difference between the flu testing for the flu and COVID. So what good is it? So I am just saying it's our choice. It's the parents' choice. If somebody wants to wear a mask, let them wear a mask. It's their choice too. I have no problem with it. But we're the parents. We are in charge of the health. You guys are the great educators that help them become big, bright students. Thanks.
Thank you. Whitney Stoner.
Hi, my name is Whitney Stoner, and I have two children who attend Bristol. Last year, my 4K'er, she loved it here, but I'll be honest, masks are hard for her to keep on. It's just not her thing. Yeah. My second grader, she kept it on. She's a rule follower. She will follow any rule, but it gave her a lot of anxiety. She didn't love it. She was nervous all the time. That's not how I want school to be for her. I want her to come here and want to learn. I want her to come here and to be excited to come to school, not nervous of kids yelling at her, reprimanding her because kids are told to yell at other kids who don't wear masks. I want her to feel safe again coming to school. Safe for some people may look like being in a mask, and that's okay. They can do that. I'm asking for my child's safety and her comfort at being at school. She has the choice to feel comfortable being here. I just beg that we can look at the whole child, not just their physical health, not if they get a cold, not if they get COVID. I understand I'm assuming the risk. If my child gets COVID, I'm not running to you guys and saying, you guys made it happen. I know I'm assuming that risk, but I'm weighing her whole self, her mental state, her physical state, her emotional state. Those are all vastly important to me as a parent. And that's important that you guys let me have some bit of control over that. Not having her coming to school feeling like she doesn't have control over that, that's hard for me. And it's hard as a parent because there's nothing I could do about it last year. This year, I would appreciate as her parent to have the choice to let her not wear it. If she has to in her class want to wear it, she's taught to be respectful. That is their parent's choice. We say every household has different roles, and that's okay. We don't do all the same things all the time. So I would love to be able to raise my child to be respectful of everybody's choice, because I'm sure they'll be full of masks. And I want to have the opportunity to teach her to be respected as well, and let her choice that to not wear a mask be heard as well. So that is all I'm here to say.
That is me. I think the community here so far has spoken. I don't know that I'm adding anything new to the table here. I am glad this meeting is on a Tuesday today, though, because I would normally attend, but I work every Wednesday till 5:30. Side note. I already sent in an email here, but I do believe that the masks at this point are causing more harm than good for several reasons. Most were mentioned tonight. They're not usually properly executed anyways, especially on these little ones. They touch surfaces, they touch the masks, they just... My daughter is having respiratory issues that she never had prior to the masks. My son struggles with it more mentally. As a parent, I do believe it's our right to make the choice whether or not our children wear masks. I have absolutely no issue with anybody else that wants to wear masks. I just think it's the parent's choice. Summer school has been amazing without masks. It's been so successful. And my kids know we're here tonight talking about the masks. I try to keep them obviously out of most things, but they are anxious and they want to know, do we have to wear them? And I know the teachers say they do good, and they probably do because kids are so resilient, but I know they don't want to wear them. And I do think it's our choice as parents. Thank you.
Your first name starts with K.
Nicole?
Nailed it, Adam. Nailed it.
I am. No, I'm not. My name is Nicole Atkins. My daughter goes here. She will be in 8th grade this year. And I can tell you, I have seen a dramatic change in her behavior. And she's just down and depressed. You took away cheer. You took away all the sports. Kids need that for a positive outlet. They need a place to de-stress. And when all of this de-stressing of sports and activities are taken away, and you're forced to fit into this masked environment and separated from your friends and your peers, it takes a toll on kids. And I really saw a change in her. Not only that, I just think that it's the parents' choice. I lost my train of thought. The statistics, they just don't match. The science that they're touting in the media doesn't match. And our kids know this, and they question us at home why they have to be put through all of the things that they have to be put through in order to go to school. And she really wants to have the opportunity to join the cheer team again and have the positive outlet. And I really hope that those things come back. It's important for our children to participate in sports and be together and meet in groups and not have to be socially distanced or separated. Thank you.
All right, this one
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Whitaker. I have a kindergartner student this year. I really do believe that we're all unified in that we really do want to find what's best for our students. And we do have different ways for what that looks like. There's a couple points that I just wanted to make, and I appreciate that you guys have read our letter before we came here tonight. But first, tonight the board's really making a decision on whether, as a school district, we're following health guidelines put in place by long-respected institutions of expertise, or if we're choosing to go a different way that disaligns with the institutions. Experts on national, state, county, and even professional levels like our pediatricians are all in alignment with mask wearing indoor recommendations. I cannot see the wisdom or safety in deciding to do anything other than coming into alignment with these experts. Finally, I just would like to say that the idea of wearing mask wearing indoors is optional. While it might appear to give more parents more agency over their child's choices, in real life, I believe it's an abdication of safety decisions to children, and it transfers the social tension that we as adults often are feeling. This 18 months has been difficult, and we're all managing whether we should wear a mask or pressure to of a classroom. And to transfer that to a 10-year-old doesn't really seem tenable. Teachers will have to navigate that, and I know it's difficult. And unfortunately, the safety decisions, I believe, have to fall to the adults in the room, and that's you guys. And I'm sorry for that. And whatever you choose, as Bristol parents, we will do our best to support the situation. But I don't think indoor option is really a safe option. I know that some of the survey information looked at indoors versus outdoors, and maybe we can do as much as we can for the foreseeable. But it was a safe year last year, and I hope you guys would continue the recommendations until pediatric vaccines available. Thank you.
Nedwesky. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Nedwesky. I'm a visitor here from Pleasant Prairie. I'm going around to the county schools this week to attend the school board meetings to see how they decide what their safety measures will be as the school year begins as compared to what maybe will happen in more urban areas in our state. I have been notably impressed by these communities. I have attended every KUST school board meeting in the last year and a half, and we have never had this kind of turnout of parents. I was at Burlington last night, woo! But incredibly impressive, brave, proud, courageous people who believe in their parental rights to make health decisions for their children. I'd like to bring to the board's attention and this community's attention that there is a policy, a school board policy number 5310 under health services. The Board of Education may require students to submit to periodic health examinations to protect the school community from the spread of communicable disease, to determine that each student's participation in health, safety, and physical education courses meets his or her individual needs, and to determine that the learning potential of each child is not lessened by a remediable physical disability. That all seems to be pretty reasonable. The district shall specify the need for health services, which may include but not be limited to student physical examinations, athlete examinations, vision screening, and audiometric screening. Any health services program should also include instruction to staff members on the observance of students for conditions that indicate signs of physical health conditions, which may be pertinent to the student's ability to fully access the district's programming. The board shall directly notify the parents of students at least annually at the beginning of the school year of the specific or approximate dates, during the school year when any non-emergency, invasive physical examination or screening is scheduled or expected to be scheduled, for students if the examination or screening is 1, required as a condition of attendance, 2, administered by the school and scheduled by the school in advance, and 3, not necessary to protect the immediate health and safety of a specific student or other students. Not necessary to protect the immediate health and safety of a specific student? The term, quote, invasive physical examination means any medical examination that involves the exposure of private body parts or any act during which such examination that includes incision, insertion, or injection into the body but does not include hearing, vision, or scoliosis screening. I find this policy confusing and alarming. Invasive physical examination, non-emergency procedure by a school member that includes incision, insertion, or injection into the body. We also included some exposure to private parts in that. I'm not sure if any of you are even aware that this policy exists or its wording. It does exist in a number of school districts throughout the state. It was brought to my attention by someone else, and I wanted to bring it to this community's attention so that they were aware it's there and they can address it with the school board accordingly. It appears that many school boards buy policies that are written by a company called Neola. That's Neola.com. I would appreciate, as a child advocate, that this board express time, especially when we're talking about incision, insertion, injection, to review this policy and consider revising it. Thank you very much.
Apologize, I can't read the first name, last name. Last name is Travis. That's the first name.
You told me I had to sign it, so I signed it, and then I realized you couldn't probably read it. So I put Travis. So Travis Smith. I have a 7-year-old that was in 2nd grade last year, going into 3rd grade. She does suffer from she doesn't have the self-confidence. Wearing a mask last year did not help that at all. I have a 5-year-old that was in pre-K last year, going into kindergarten this year. He is being tested, which about 2 weeks ago, I spent 2 hours sleeping at a sleep study with him because it was miserable to get him figured out because he has asthma, allergies, and he has horrible breathing, and a mask is not helping him. Then I have a 2-month-old. His diapers are better than their masks after a long day at school. Their masks are disgusting, and they breathe those in all day. It is gross. It is not healthy for these kids to be wearing these masks. It should be the parents' option, especially when you have kids with health issues, which you've heard others saying that their kids do. It is not okay. People that want their kids to wear a mask, I have nothing against them. If you want your kid to wear a mask, wear a mask. But I want the option to tell my kids that they don't have to wear a mask. I sat down to dinner at 5 o'clock with them. I told them that Daddy's coming here because you guys are not going to wear a mask to school anymore. And they cannot wait for me to get home to give them an answer because it is unhealthy. It is not good for them. And I think everyone else pretty much spoke for what I wanted to say and then some. So that's my opinion. Just, it's an easy solution. It's optional. It's very simple. Very, very simple. That's all.
Okay, my name is Lisa Johnson, and I'm also a visitor from Pleasant Prairie. But I was raised here as a Bristol renegade many, many moons ago myself. But I just want to make a point that I just think it's sad that we've come to this, point in time where we have to worry about, mandating our children to wear these masks. I mean, this is something that we didn't have to worry about when we were kids. And I don't think it's something that we should have to force upon our children. I think it's a parent's choice. And as a school board, I hope that you respect us parents to be able to make that type of choice for our children instead of having it completely mandated. This is just not something that the government should force upon us. It's my own constitutional right. It's all of our rights to be able to make those choices for our own children. And I'm not against masks. I'm not against the vaccinations. I am against the mandate. And I think that we all should have a choice in that matter. That's it.
Did you all feel this? Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Raven Johnson, and that's my mom, Lisa. But something I just wanted to say from all you guys is you guys are parents, so you guys see what you guys as children come home and tell you, or what you see from an outside view. And I'm not saying that's bad because I love my mom, but at the same time, having personal experience being in school, I would just like to say I was almost suspended from taking my mask off over 3 times. I was at the point of losing my basketball career in high school now for not wearing my mask in tryouts or practice. And when I tell you that's a really hard thing to do, to be able to constantly run up and down a court in gym, in basketball, or even just sitting in a classroom and it's overheating in the winter, or you're sitting there in the summer and they've got the windows open and it's way too hot in the classroom, you can't breathe. And sitting there trying to take a test, which I know can be kind of like harder for little kids, that it's not so much, it's just, oh, it's a test, you're coloring. But at the same time, they're still learning. And I personally, as being only 15, it's still really hard for me to learn with having a mask on. It was really hard for me this past year to have a mask constantly being on my face. And I only say that because I've never had breathing problems before. And this year, when I tell you I ended up going to the ER after a basketball practice because I had a coach scream at me and tell me that if I didn't put it back on, I would be kicked off the team. And basketball means more than a mask to me. So I held it. And I ended up getting one of those, I guess, yes, heart monitors that started tracking my heart to make sure that I was okay and I could breathe. And anytime I put that mask on, my heart rate changed. Everything changed. The way that I was breathing, the way that I was acting in school. I never had any problems before this. And I don't know if this affects other children like the way it affected me, but I know there are other children out there that are just as bad as me, or that get worse when they have the masks on. And maybe for you guys, you being older, you kind of don't see that at home, because when you get home, these parents see their kids ripped off their masks and they finally get to breathe, and they don't see that part. Then when they're in school, it is really, really hard to keep it up. I can't tell you the number of times I had a teacher yell at me and say, "I'm sorry, I can't not yell at you because this is the district telling me to do this. And I will lose my job if I don't tell you to." And that broke me, because if I didn't do it, then the teacher was losing their job. And I loved my teachers. And I know, like, for all of you guys, that it's hard for you guys to see your kids go through this. It was hard for my mom to see me in the hospital when we were having that problem, especially because I have 3 little girls at home, and I know they're all going into, I got twins and a older one. Yep. Dang. Those 3 minutes.
Thank you all for your public comments, and we appreciate the feedback. So next on our agenda is number 7, COVID protocols, including mask and face coverage, 2021-2 school year. So I'm going to turn over to our district administrator, Jack Lucia, and he is going to go over recommendations.
First of all, I just want to say thank you all. Thank you all for coming. It really means a lot to me as a district administrator to see you turn out and speak on the behalf of the students that we all serve. So thank you for being here. I also wanted to say that before we move on, I'm very proud to be the district administrator in this district. I take the job very seriously, and I will continue to do that. I always will, and I know I sent this to the board earlier in the week, but I will always strive to lead by example, and I appreciate the conversation tonight, and I know that these are very difficult decisions as we move forward, and I know that I will lead by example, and I hope we all lead by example today, even though we may not see things exactly the same way. I believe conversation and sometimes disagreement are healthy, and that's what this country was built upon. And I just want to remind everybody that we are here to make the best decision for what we believe is in the best interest of the kids we serve in this community. So again, thank you for being here. With that, I will go ahead and present my screen if that is okay. I know it's a little bit difficult for everybody to see. Probably don't want to do my entire screen. Sorry. I want to do a window, correct? A tab. Oh, cancel that. Yep. Got it. That's hard to see, isn't it? I will try a little better. I will try to read aloud, so for those of you that are sitting on this side of the room, you'll be able to follow along. I will, in full admittance, say that I worked closely with District Administrator John Genren from the high school on this document. And when I say closely, I mean John created the entire thing and I copied it. So I actually changed some of the wording for elementary school. So this is in draft form, and as I present this tonight, please remember that this is in draft form, and I just want to make sure that as we go through it, I want to bring up the talking points, and then I will leave that to the board to make a motion to change the language of it and then go ahead and pass it. So that's where we're at. The very first line is obviously the hot topic of discussion tonight, where it says Bristol School will blank face coverings for students and or staff while at school. The wearing of masks will be blank for staff and students. Obviously, this is going to determine a lot of as we go through the further of the document. I will continue to go through the document. And then, as I said, I will allow them to create a motion as to what that language reads. Obviously, that wording in that space will be either, in my opinion, should either be optional, recommended, or required. So that, and I will state, and for those of you in audience and listening online, I did receive a message from Mr. Gendron earlier that the high school chose to use the word optional in their language of their back to school plan tonight. So that's just a fact of the matter that he would like for me to report on that. The second bullet is something we're a little less in control of. A federal order is now in place that requires face coverings for public transportation. This includes school bus transportation because we are a public school, and then it's considered public education. Students will be required to wear a face mask on coverings if they choose, if parents choose to send them on the bus to school. All students and staff using transportation system will be required to wear those face coverings with this federal order remains in effect until revoked. That is a federal mandate. So as the district administrator, I would strongly recommend students continue to follow that federal mandate. However, it will be up to Dousman in order to police that, if you will, for a regular term, or I do not foresee us as a school handling that as a discipline issue. That would be a concern that Dousman would then take on as the bus company that would be requiring the students to wearing those. Obviously, I've included the bullet point here, that reminder to be respectful of choices of others. Bullying of students, whether they're wearing a mask or not, will ever be tolerated here at Bristol. Students testing positive for COVID. Students will follow the Kenosha County Health Department recommendations, which require the individual testing positive to quarantine from school and all school activities for 10 days from the onset of symptoms. That is on a positive case. If a student or staff member tests positive, that's where we would stand. That's, I guess, where in draft form, that's one that's probably not debatable. If somebody tests positive, I think it's pretty uniform right now that they would quarantine for 10 days. Students would be excused from school as per they were, as per recommended, and then they would follow quarantine instructions. This one is a little bit different. Close contact and quarantine procedures. The district will continue to contact trace for all individual testing positive for COVID. The district will use 15 minutes at 3 feet or closer as contact for contact and distance. Families of students that will be contacted and notified that their child has been identified as a close contact. This communication will be sent by email. My recommendation before this was that parents would then monitor their child for symptoms. If they were symptom free, they would still be able to come to school. However, last night we were thrown a little bit of a curveball that the Kenosha County Health Department changed their quarantine regulations and said that it would be mandatory quarantine for all close contacts. I am going to again throw that to the board. That is something that is I would again put up for the board for language. I will state that, and this is in no way of me trying to show any bias or anything like that, but the Central School Board earlier this evening decided that they were not going to follow mandatory quarantine and decide that if students were not showing symptoms, they would be able to return to school per the parent choice. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the 15 minutes or 3 feet apart. If a positive classmate is in the front corner of the classroom, they're not necessarily 3 feet apart from the negative child in the back corner of the classroom. Does this mean, for clarity purposes, that we would not be quarantining the entire classroom?
Yeah, so that would be a discussion that we would probably have to have further with the teacher. The other piece of that is, and this again will be up to you guys to decide, but if there is no symptoms that show, regardless of so parents would be contacted that they were a close contact. It would then we would then need to decide on whether or not that was a mandatory in this language. If there was a mandatory suggestion, I guess it's not a suggestion if it's mandatory. It would be mandated that they would then have to quarantine. If we just simply notified the parents through email stating that they were a close contact and to watch for symptoms, and if those symptoms weren't showing up, they would be able to come to school. So
and as a board, I think we also need to consider close contact within this 15 minutes apart is going to be different for our middle school when we were talking about mandating to elementary. And this is why when a middle schooler tested positive, entire 7th grade had to be quarantined because they couldn't just do one classrooms because they changed classes and mixed in with classes. So another just important call out as we are looking at this verbiage, when you're thinking classroom, that might not be 30 students, that could be all 70 to 75 or greater.
My understanding, this is what we did last year at Central, was a student, you're doing basically all around that student. So if you got a kid to the left, to the right, and well, they're all within 3 feet. Those are the anybody outside of that 3 feet radius is fine.
yeah, so the way that we did it last year was we discussed that with teachers. To both of your points, that's a lot easier, usually in a smaller elementary type of setting where students are are in the same classroom and are sitting in the same seat for the majority of the day, travel together. When you have middle school classes, they do. We try our best to keep them within their homeroom throughout the day. However, they might sit in a little bit different seat, or they're passing in the hallways, things like that. Usually we ended up going with the full homeroom in those situations because they were interacting a little bit more in the hallways and things like that, where it was a little bit easier to, I guess, trace the pod, if you will, of a smaller student. So those are both good points. Yeah.
And just to add, that's when we had seating charts and pods and cohorts, and that brings us back to the COVID year, which we're all trying to get away from, right? Are we asking questions as we go through? Or are we
you guys tell me. I'm about halfway
typically
through the
wait till the
document.
end.
Would you like me to just finish going through the document and then you guys can go back? I just got the low battery warning, so I'm gonna. Sue, can you help me plug in here as I go, please? I think there's one right in front of us. Oh, thank you, sir. I'm stuck there. And always, if families elect to quarantine their child, regardless of what our, our recommendation is, they have that right, and the student will be excused from school. So, as many of you listening and parents know, that we use the Google Classroom as our platform. If we did have a student who was quarantined, or it would be we would treat them as if they were an absent student. We would have the Google Classroom, which would have post daily assignments and classwork. Then they would be obviously, if they're feeling well enough to be able to know what's going on in class and follow through and continue to do their work at home. And then teachers would be obviously required to update that Google Classroom as students, whether they're here at school or they're at home, continuously would be able to check their assignments. And then that would just be, we would just ask that those students and parents would interact with their teachers through that Google Classroom platform with any assistance or questions. And then as students return, just like in any other case, if there was any work or assessments that they needed to make up, they would do that when they got back. This is one thing that I will strongly recommend, just from a district administrator and former assistant principal and teacher and everything else. I feel very strongly that the district will provide in-person instruction for 5 days a week. I don't just hearing feedback from teachers, seeing the exhaustion in their faces, knowing what I went through last year as an administrator. I would not be in favor of any sort of virtual learning or hybrid model for our students. Social distancing will be provided as available. This again will be something that the board will have to decide tonight on the language, but I believe that it would be in benefit for students to be able to collaborate, do group activities, work together. As one of the parents mentioned earlier, I know it broke my heart to see empty gyms and empty ball fields and stages empty without concerts and plays and all of those things going on. That would be something that I would strongly encourage. We will obviously social distance as much as we can when in the classroom, but when we're doing school activities, sometimes that's just not the case. My recommendation would be to return to a regular lunch schedule. This is more of I guess it's a two-parted question, or a two-parted recommendation for me. One, staffing was an absolute nightmare last year with this. We had kids eating all over the building, in their classrooms, in hallways. Sorry, Mrs. Littell, I can see you smiling back there, but yeah, garbage in the hallways, garbage in the classrooms. Just not easy for our custodial staff to be continually running to different places for lunch activities. And I know that somebody else mentioned it earlier. And maybe this is just me, but I want to see kids in the cafeteria smiling and laughing with their friends. Oh, sorry. I'm going to stop in the middle of this. Sue, thank you for that. Just a couple quick things. I know it's hot. I'm hot. I'm a big guy. We're trying to get the air turned down. I know it's on a schedule. We're trying to get that turned down. The other piece of that is I know we are approaching a severe thunderstorm warning. If for any reason we get a tornado warning, down the hallway and down the stairs is the 6th grade hallway, which is our basement. So if for whatever reason while I'm speaking that happens and the siren, which is right out front, goes off, just know that we are expecting severe weather. So if that does happen, down the hallway, down the ramp, into the basement. So sorry, I just had to get that out just in case it did happen, because I know that there was a tornado warning at some point earlier this week. hopefully that doesn't happen, right? So health service protocols, we would continue with hand sanitizing stations throughout the building, encourage hand washing, do all those things that we know is good practice, whether we are in COVID protocol or not. Again, field trips off campus would be allowed for students. That would be my recommendation. Outside groups are starting to, since we've opened the building. I hear Gene giggling over here. We've had a plethora of requests to use the building, and that's exciting to me, just because I feel like that's what the gyms are for, right? I know that many of you have lived in Bristol many years. I'd like to see kids running in gyms and volleyballs bouncing and basketballs going and 4-H clubs meeting and all of those type of things. And we've had requests for all of that. So my recommendation would be to open up the building. Again, draft form up to the board, but those are just things that I know have come on our chart that I wanted to discuss. Athletics will follow the guidelines provided by the WIAA and or the Westosha Area Athletic Conference. We are a part of the Westosha Area Athletic Conference, which many of you know include the area K-8s. They usually take their guidance from the WIAA, which is the statewide athletic association. So whatever they would recommend is what I would recommend that we follow. So we could still be a part of those events. I wouldn't, at this point, it brings me to the point that on Thursday night, we do have a summer band concert. I have given Mr. Murphy the green light just because I wasn't sure what the board would decide tonight, but he does have the gym set up and he's invited all parents to be there. We have not had a mask mandate in place, so I told him to carry on as usual. I just want to remind the board that if something does change, I would hope that we would do it after Thursday night, because I know how hard Mr. Murphy has worked and how proud we are of our band program, and would at least like that concert to go on as scheduled. And if something does change, obviously let me know so that I can let him know first thing in tomorrow morning if we need to make any adjustments to that. I know I've kind of stated it previously, but my background as an educator is very strong in things like clubs, dances, organization, all those types of things, athletics. I would prefer that our kids are allowed to do those things. Obviously, my last sentence there, the protocols and procedures in this document will continue to be monitored, as well as COVID-related data, including but not limited to positive tests and the number of individuals identified as a close contact. Significant increases in these numbers may result in changes of the plan. So again, something to consider maybe for the board would be, I know there has been some discussion that if there is a certain number of cases that happen in our building, or a percentage of cases that of our in-person learners and staff, if there's a percentage of those students or staff that are positive, we would maybe call a mandatory special meeting or something like that to re-review what our to review what our current guidelines are. Just a suggestion. I know some boards are doing that, others are not. Just wanted to bring all that information forward to you tonight. Sorry, I spoke rather quickly there, but I wanted to get through the information and allow you guys to ask questions as we got through. I also apologize. I worked on this until late this afternoon, so I wasn't able to give it to you before we were here tonight, but I figured if we all went through it together that way, at least you know kind of where I'm coming from, and obviously I'm open to suggestions, and it's not my decision at this point, it's yours. Yeah.
Any questions from?
I do. Jack? Maybe I missed it, but what was your recommendation for the fall start? No,
I can
I'm
hear
not.
her. I can hear her.
I did it for once, you guys. Double vision?
I did not make a recommendation as far as face coverings are concerned. I was waiting for you guys to make proposal as far as what I did say is it either needs to be, or what I would prefer is either optional, recommended, or mandatory.
What are the school districts have town doing?
Good question. So there have been literally as of 5:30 this evening, Central, like I had mentioned, said, and I want to just back up a little bit. I know I'm not sure if anybody in the room has students that currently go here and go to Central. I know that a lot of our community members do. So there's no other, any sort of alignment factor other than Bristol aligns with Central and as much as we can. And that's why I chose to align with John the best I could, Mr. Gendron over there. So that's all. They chose the word optional and chose to inform parents of close quarantine, of close contact rather, and monitor symptoms. Salem made a decision, and please, for those of you who are more familiar with what Salem has done, please correct me if I'm misspeaking. I know that they chose the word optional earlier in the July meeting. However, I believe they're looking to reconvene and either just affirm that decision or revisit it. I don't know exactly as far as the rest of their protocols are concerned. I don't know. I know that out in Twin Lakes last night, they chose to do a kind of a 3-tiered method where they would start optional, but then monitor the cases, and were able to move into and out of, I guess, less optional verbiage as to whether or not teachers and or administrators would then require kids to wear masks depending on what their numbers looked like. So they had a 3-tiered plan. I know that Riverview and Silver Lake, Riverview chose the word optional in their meeting last month. And I'm just speaking of those that I know, and I don't obviously don't know everybody. And we had met a week ago or 2 weeks ago Tuesday now, and discussed what what their recommendations were going to be. I just don't know for sure who's had board meetings and when, because they've all been kind of coming in and out and have planned many different special board meetings and et cetera, et cetera. So those are the ones that I at least are aware of.
I know we've heard from you last board meeting that summer school has been very effective and it's been a very positive experience for everyone. We even had a mother mention how positive of an experience it has been. And we approved at one of the early board meetings that we did not have a mask mandate or recommendation for summer school. They could wear a mask, or we more or less kept it optional. Mm-hmm. Have we had any COVID issues with it being mask optional in a smaller group setting already, like a trial run?
I have not been made aware of any student within the summer school program who has been positive.
Jack, I know it says on this plan summary that we've been consulting with the Kenosha County Health Department. And I know you said you got this from John. Have you been consulting with the Kenosha County Health Department?
Yeah, so good question. I guess if defining consulting, if consulting means personal meetings, no. I guess what I would say is I on a daily basis read their recommendations keyed up, and that's where I went back and edited last night because they had switched literally from the recommended language of quarantine to required or mandated. I'm not exactly sure what the language states. So that's something that I can always edit in our document, is that, reading of the materials, yes. Physically meeting with the health department, I have not yet.
And then I do have another question. I believe this is actually in your document, what are the quarantine protocols for positive cases and direct contacts if we have optional or no masks? And the same question for contacts with required masks.
I'm sorry. What was your question?
I was asking what the quarantine protocols for positive cases and direct contacts are if we have optional or no masks. And the same question if we have required masks.
Would they be the same?
What are they?
Are you saying they would? Are you saying that they would be proposing they would be different or the same?
I believe they would be different. I'm just asking Jack if he knows what they are.
I'm trying to find where you are on the document.
Well, I see under, it says close contact and quarantine procedures. And then there's quarantine, well, I guess that's for students and learning. But the close contact and quarantine procedures, it just clarifies what a direct contact is. And I know you said that you just got the memo from the Kenosha County Health Department yesterday, which lays out the quarantine procedures, correct? But I believe that the CDC overrode that if we required masks, direct contacts do not have to quarantine at all unless they show symptoms.
That actually is not true, and I have the article to prove it.
Okay.
It's actually a vaccination. They're recommending if you've been vaccinated, you don't necessarily have to quarantine if you've been in close contact, but the mask statement is you are still suggested to quarantine.
I do not know the answer to that. I thought that the close contact was close contact regardless if you were masked or not. That was the way I created this document.
Okay.
If I'm not right on that, then I appreciate the question. I guess I wasn't aware of that if there was a difference.
That's great. We actually did get an email from a PA that lives within our district, and she called out an exception on an appendix of the CDC plan. And it states in the K-12 indoor classroom setting, the close contact definition excludes students who are within 3 to 6 feet of an infected student if both the infected student and the exposed student correctly, consistently wore well-fitting masks the entire time. So it's pretty much saying if you wear masks and you're a close contact, you will not have to quarantine unless you're showing the symptoms of COVID. So I guess that was my question too, is if you were aware of that.
I was not.
Okay.
And I did follow up with that letter as well, asking her for the article because when I went through, I could not find that addendum.
Do you know what it would take for the health department, what they'll use to determine if our school requires a shutdown or how long the shutdown would be? So I believe last year we were shut down within 2 weeks of the school year.
Yeah, and that was I think that was a joint, that was an administrative decision not because of positive cases, but because of who was positive and the close contacting.
It's whether, remember when it was whether we voted on whether we accepted that recommendation or not. We did not accept the recommendation. Yeah.
That was for the fall closure and then,
Yeah.
but we had closed earlier in the year.
You want to change you want to
For monitoring the weather.
Yes.
Understand that mask requirements indoors have been widely recommended by the CDC, the NIH, the AAP, locally by Wisconsin Department of Health Services, Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, and even more locally, the Kenosha County Health Department just issued their statement yesterday. All these agencies believe the place for students to be is face-to-face learning, but with masks. And with this exception, the CDC's exception for the K-12 indoor classrooms, if we wear masks, we don't need to go against any kind of agency. We don't have to quarantine direct contacts if we wear masks. So if we have masks, we can go back to learning centers, carpet time, reading buddies, Math 24, all of these STEM projects, parent volunteers, it would be a normal year. You would just wear a mask and you wouldn't go against any, excuse me, hi, I'm speaking. I would like to know we are all completely socially distanced. I am a good 3+ feet away from everybody. And that is, there is no mask mandate. There's recommendations. We're in a high zone for our county. So there are no mandates out there right now. So you are able to do that. And I am able to sit here 3 feet apart without my mask on. So if you would like a normal year and to follow all of the guidelines, just put on a mask. If you would like to follow the guidelines, like we stated, you have to imagine your school with your kids sitting 3 feet apart at all times. That you're imagining your kids sitting at their desk, like they're not moving, they're not going anywhere. Direct contacts that's Corey right there, like direct contacts. We're going to be quarantining classrooms at a time all over again. Our schools are going to be shut down all over again when we can just follow rules and wear a mask. So unmasked right now, if we go unmasked, you have a more mandatory 7 or 10-day quarantine from the Kenosha County Health Department and can return to school after a negative COVID result. If that COVID result is positive, another 7 to 10-day quarantine is necessary. So your child could be out of school for 20 days just because they're sitting next to somebody who had COVID. But if we are masked, there's no quarantine for students unless the student is showing symptoms. We don't have to quarantine entire classrooms at a time. So if we're unmasked, we're risking classroom and grade closures and possibly another school closure.
Steph, I have a quick question on that. Was that the Kenosha County recommendation or the mandate?
The Kenosha County
mandate.
So it's the Kenosha County, the memo that went out, but it's coupled with the CDC recommendation. There are no mandates. So the CDC recommendation, it's the appendix. I believe it's Appendix A exception. It's listed right here, and it was called out to us by a PA who emailed the board. Even the Children's Hospital, they held a panel last night that was live on Facebook that encouraged districts to have required masking. It's not I don't know. I just think it's a really simple decision that we need to make. I mean, I printed out everything. I mean, I didn't go through every piece of information, but it's all about recommending masks. And the problem to me is we are currently in a high rate of community transmission. We are red. Last week we were substantial orange, and just before that we were moderate yellow. And we've catapulted to high in just over a week. And now we're sending our kids to school. Being a reactive board is not something we should do. We should be a proactive board. We're putting all of these kids in. We're welcoming all of these teachers from their trips. I know we had board members on vacation last week and going on vacation this week. I mean, it's just crazy to me that we would have everybody come back into school and not be wearing masks. It's a simple mitigation. We're doing all of these other things that we can do to keep it under control. This is something that's so simple. And it's about the kids. It's not a parent. This is not an adult problem. Please. This is not an adult issue. This is for the kids, and we are the adults in this building, and we do need to make this decision. And it's a public health crisis right now. We're in high. Like, this is insane that this is even an option.
Stephanie, I have a question. When you're looking at what the transmission rate and whatnot, have you also looked at hospital admissions and whatnot? Because you can get COVID, but you can also get different strands. And so while just like the flu, when we look at the admission rate and whatnot, it's also important to consider when we're looking at like flu transmissions, and while they're positive with the flu, how many of those are actually getting admitted? How many of those are getting worst case scenario? And while I'm not here to argue, is COVID real? Is it something that we don't need or we need to be concerned about? I think the answers to both of those questions are yes. I also think a positive COVID case could also be somebody who had to go into work and they got a case and they weren't experiencing any symptoms whatsoever.
but they're still positive for COVID. That's the point. So last year we looked at schools in the South that went back to school before us as an example, right? What's happening down there right now? Like their hospitals are full, their children's hospitals are maxed. Their hospitals are full, their children's hospitals are maxed to capacity. They have the highest number of children in hospitals that have ever been seen in the entire pandemic. This Delta variant is more communicable.
We don't need Burlington. Let's respect her. Let her talk.
Well, I mean, that was the end of what I needed to say. It's just we've been looking at all of those southern states last year to come up with recommendations for the last school year, right? So now, why are we just throwing away the data that we don't have to go through that at our school? We can be a proactive board.
Yeah, they're muting me. I just think that we have to continue to monitor this. I think we start out with optional. I'm not saying it's going to end up optional, but we start out this way. We keep our fingers on the pulse of this thing and we go from there. But we have to revisit this like every couple of weeks because I think this is a very, it's a very polarizing, issue. And we're all very passionate about it. And I'm passionate about my kids as equally as you guys are about yours. Jack's making a recommendation, and I'm here to support his recommendation in whatever way I can. If that's the recommendation he's making, Steph, I got to trust him as our administrator, and I got to go with that.
Yeah.
But again, this isn't over. This is just the beginning, and we just got to keep our fingers on the pulse.
I just want to make sure we do reevaluate this
Yes.
at least every couple of weeks. Obviously, the data changes. We just need the ability to be flexible and watch what's going on in our area. If we don't want to be proactive, we want to be reactive, then we can, we just still need to be flexible and discuss for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And hopefully we can get an update from administration every week or so on this. I was
Mine's
just
muted all the time. They can't hear me.
I was just saying, hopefully we can get an update from administration on effects like COVID related every month, every week with your weekly update.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't think that, that's not a problem whatsoever. I mean, it's something that I and I think all of us have an agreement is that this is going to be an ongoing.
Yeah, this is just the beginning. Clearly.
So I was going to say something, but I won't. So there's a motion on the floor by Mike, seconded by Corey, to make face coverings optional for all staff and students. Since we are virtual as well, we will do a roll call vote. So aye. Stephanie?
Nay.
Sue?
Aye, but we revisit it.
Mike?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Motion passes. I do want to thank everybody for your attention.
Adam, I'm sorry to cut you off. Am I leaving? I just want to be clear of the boards. So we voted on the first opening question there. Is there a motion to approve the document otherwise as presented, or is that under further discussion until I guess that's
Can we have a
confusing to
special
me.
board meeting about that and get out of here before the second set of storms hit?
Sure. I'm okay with whatever. I just want to be clear as to what I'm doing with the document that was presented tonight and what I need to do in order to either update this and or keep you guys informed and families informed as to what our protocols are moving forward. Okay, that
So we need
wasn't
to
the
make
motion. That wasn't the motion. That's why I'm asking for
The motion
clarification.
I made was for the optional to be filled in, but I think we need to make another motion to say the document as is to be revisited. Whoever wants to make that motion.
Make a motion to approve Jack's recommendation COVID plan summary for 2021-2022 as is,
With frequent review.
with frequent review and changes made as necessary.
Second.
Okay. Mike, did you second?
Second.
Okay, so second by Mike. So roll call vote. Adam? Aye.
I actually have discussion on this also. You skipped over discussion. I guess I didn't have enough time to review everything in particular since it was, we just went through it. I don't think we've had enough time to review it as a board.
So you'll have time if we can make changes as necessary. So if you have questions.
Okay, we do not need to approve this right now if we don't want to. He can move forward with this and make changes as needed and then re-present it to the board. Once we approve it, it becomes board approved and can be sent to families. That's the difference.
And that's, I'm sorry, that's all I'm asking for clarification because I will be sending something to the families by the end of this week as to where we stand, and I don't want to misinform them. If I just simply include the mask portion and along with the transportation information, I'm okay with that. I just don't want to misrepresent what the motion was tonight and include the rest of the document to families if it hasn't been approved. That's why I wanted to pause before we adjourned.
And I can absolutely understand that, Stephanie, but there's also a motion on the floor and it was seconded, which means we have the right to bring it to a vote.
That's fine. I just said my discussion was we just received this tonight and we haven't had enough time to review it. That's all the discussion was.
You do have a point there, Stephanie.
Because if this gets sent out and then next week or 2 weeks we change it, that's going to be confusing on the parents. I say that if you could just do the bus and the mask option, that's what most of them are really most concerned about. And then we can do the full document once we've had time to.
I made it too soon.
It's on here. It says protocols and procedures in this document will continue to be monitored as well as COVID-related data, including but not limited to positive tests and the number of individuals identified as close contacts. Significant increases in these numbers may result in changes.
Right, I read that. I understand.
So we're just.
But I would have liked to have had the document prior to, the meeting starting.
Understandable.
And I agree. And I like I said, I was making updates until I walked down here.
We obviously know how much stuff changes.
We can just go to vote because it's already on the table.
So
We have a meeting the 25th.
Oh, for sure.
That's what I'm saying is we can approve this and it's in the motion to make changes as necessary. So at least Jack has something to send out to the families so that they know what is currently expected of them. If that means we have to change 2 weeks later or a month later, then so be it. That's the way it went all of last year. It was changing every week. Like you get information and then you do this, you're supposed to do this, and then the information changes a week or two later. So all we're saying is this is what Jack can send out to the families so that they can prepare accordingly. If we make a change at the next.
Are we all right?
Okay.
If we have to make a change at the next meeting, then Jack would communicate that with Bristol family.
And could that be included even in your letter that the draft has been approved at currently, and it will be, Well, in his letter, just to call out that this draft was approved, but to keep in mind that it will be frequently because sometimes I totally get it. Like you can write something in here, we can put it on the end, but parents may not realize that this could be revisited multiple times. So if Jack also reiterates that in his email, it kind of just ensures that as we as a board have further time to even review it. But I do feel it's very important to give parents as much of a heads up as to what we're thinking as a board and moving forward.
Alright, so it's a motion on the floor. Seconded by Mike. So roll call vote. Adam, aye. Stephanie?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Alright,
Hi.
alright, motion carried 5-0. So this brings us to the end. To this end, before I want to thank everybody for
Yes,
being
thank
here
you.
and voicing your opinion with for or against the topic tonight. So you guys want to say y'all should have nice conversations.
We have to resolve, we have to.
Anyways, I will make a motion. It is 8:01 to adjourn. So, give me a second.
I'll second.
I'll second. I'll
So
third.
roll call vote. Adam, aye. Stephanie.
Well, I'm a scientist, so this is what I do for a living. Aye.
Corey.
Now, that might just gotta be good for others. I mean, it's not like. It is, you have to compare where we were January 8,000 cases.
It keeps going up. Well, it's, yeah, it keeps going up, but I'm hoping it doesn't go up. I have to wear masks. What do you do? I'm in charge of commercial operations for ecology franchises, women's health, public affairs.